My name is Patty, and I have lived most of my life as the lesser sister. While my sister, Rebecca, basked in the glory of family praise, beauty pageants, and endless admiration, I lived in the shadows, mostly ignored. I wasn't bitter about it, not at first. I had different priorities. I was born with a neurological condition that requires me to use a service dog named Murphy. He's more than a dog to me. He's my lifeline, my emotional anchor, my freedom in a world that isn't built for people like me. Rebecca, on the other hand, hated that. She didn't understand why I needed Murphy at all, and worse, she thought he was gross, a nuisance, and an eyesore in her picture-perfect life. Yet, when she got engaged and her fiancé's family insisted on a lavish wedding, it was me she came crawling to. I had been successful in my own way, years of building a small company, saving carefully, investing wisely. I had money. Rebecca had image. And in her world, image mattered more than blood. Patty, she had said with fake sweetness, you've always been so generous. You know how much this wedding means to me. Can you help out? Against my better judgment, I said yes. I paid for the venue, the catering, even her designer dress. I thought, just once, maybe she'd see me as something more than a walking inconvenience. The day of the wedding was supposed to be beautiful. Murphy was freshly groomed, wearing a small satin bow tie I'd gotten made just for him. He sat quietly next to me while I got ready, tail wagging, sensing my nerves. I arrived early at the venue to avoid the chaos. As I walked into the bridal suite to drop off Rebecca's gift, she looked at me with cold, glittering eyes. Patty, you can't be seen with Murphy during the ceremony, she said, her voice low and sharp. He'll ruin the pictures. Just stay in the side room until it's over. I tried to reason with her. Rebecca, you know I can't be without Murphy. He's not a prop, he's essential, she cut me off with a fake smile. Just a few minutes. Please. For me. Before I could respond, one of her bridesmaids, clearly in on the scheme, tugged on my arm and led me to a large wardrobe in the dressing room. It was decorative, like a vintage prop, but real and spacious. The moment I stepped in, thinking she just wanted me to wait in the room quietly, the doors slammed behind me. A lock clicked. I banged on the wood. Murphy. Murphy. I heard him bark from outside. Panic rose in my throat. The walls closed in. I screamed, pounded, begged. Nothing. I don't know how long I was in there, long enough to miss the entire ceremony. When someone finally let me out, the reception was in full swing. Rebecca didn't even look at me. She smiled for the cameras, danced with her new husband, and laughed with guests. I was nothing more than a liability she had discarded. Murphy was shaking when I found him, confused and whimpering. My heart shattered, not just from the betrayal, but from the cold realization that I had paid for the prison I was locked in. That night, something inside me hardened. I had been humiliated, dismissed, and dehumanized. But I wasn't going to stay a victim. They thought they could use me and throw me away. They were wrong. Revenge would come. And it would cost her everything. I didn't sleep that night. Murphy curled beside me in the hotel room, his head resting on my chest like he knew I needed him more than ever. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Rebecca's smiling face as I pounded from inside that wardrobe. My heart pounded not from fear anymore, but from rage. White-hot, focused rage. I replayed everything in my head. How she manipulated me into funding her dream wedding. How she made me feel guilty for even needing Murphy by my side. How she imprisoned me, literally, to keep her perfect day free from what she called my inconvenience. She didn't care about me. Never had. But money? Status? Reputation? That, Rebecca worshipped. She wore her image like a crown and couldn't live without it. That's where she was vulnerable. And that's where I'd strike. I spent the next few weeks in quiet, strategic planning. I wasn't going to throw a tantrum or scream at her like she probably expected. No, I was going to dismantle her illusion piece by piece. Slowly, quietly, completely. I started gathering things: copies of invoices, financial statements, screenshots of messages where she'd begged me for money, voice notes where she mocked me behind my back, including one she accidentally sent to our cousin, calling me a walking pity party with a dog leash. That cousin had been horrified and forwarded it to me. Rebecca thought I was invisible. She had no idea I was building a war chest. She also didn't know that I still had access to her wedding planner's client portal, since I was the one who paid for the entire event. And in it? Everything I needed. Itemized bills, contracts, and most importantly, the transaction trail that would prove her dependence on me. Now I needed an audience. And lucky for me, Rebecca had made plenty of enemies pretending to be a queen. I began with subtle cracks in her empire. Her husband, Matt, had always struck me as a decent guy, if a little oblivious. He came from a humble background and was deeply impressed by Rebecca's refined lifestyle. What he didn't know was that nearly all of it was bought with my money. I scheduled a lunch with him under the pretense of wanting to clear the air after the wedding. I brought Murphy along, proudly. When Matt arrived, he looked genuinely glad to see me. "I'm really sorry about what happened at the wedding," he said awkwardly. "Rebecca told me you got overwhelmed and needed some quiet space. I didn't know you were locked in a wardrobe." I smiled. "No worries, Matt. I'm here to clarify a few things." And then I laid it out. Calmly. Logically. I showed him the receipts. Over $85,000 paid for by me. I showed him Rebecca's mocking voice messages. The wardrobe story. I watched his face fall, his jaw tighten. "She told me her parents paid for everything," he said quietly. I just handed him a printout of the final invoice with my bank stamp. "I didn't want to ruin your wedding day," I said. "But now? I want you to know who you married." I left him stunned. Confused. Angry, but not at me. That was the first domino. The second came a week later. I anonymously submitted everything: voice notes, screenshots, video clips, to a popular social media gossip account that specialized in influencer callouts. Rebecca, you see, had started building a name for herself as a luxury lifestyle coach online. She marketed herself as a self-made bride who planned her wedding without a dime from anyone else. The post went viral. Side-by-side comparisons of her posts versus the truth. Photos of me and Murphy, stories of my condition, and the detail that she locked her disabled sister in a wardrobe after taking her money. The internet turned on her fast. Thousands of comments poured in. Brands she collaborated with started pulling out. The best part? She still didn't know I was behind it. Not yet. But soon, she would. Very soon. The internet does not forget, and it does not forgive, especially when it senses hypocrisy. The backlash against Rebecca wasn't just swift, it was brutal. Within days of the post exposing her, Rebecca's so-called luxury brand partnerships began dropping her like spoiled produce. Her Instagram page, once carefully curated with filters and fake smiles, became a battlefield of angry comments and hashtags like #JusticeForPatty and #MurphyDeservedBetter. Her carefully built image as a poised, elegant lifestyle influencer shattered. Sponsors backed out of collaborations, PR agencies refused to work with her, and worst of all for Rebecca, she was no longer marketable. She wasn't a victim of internet bullying. No, people saw her for what she truly was: a cruel, manipulative woman who had no problem locking away her disabled sister to preserve a photo op. I watched in silence, Murphy at my feet, as she uploaded a tearful apology video, badly lit, mascara running, voice shaking. "I'm so sorry to everyone I've hurt. Especially my sister, Patty." I paused the video right there. I didn't need to hear her script. I knew Rebecca too well. She didn't feel remorse. She felt consequences. What followed was a glorious implosion of her social world. Her friends, the ones who used to laugh at her jokes about me, now ghosted her. Her wedding planner released a statement clarifying that I was the sole financial backer. Rebecca's in-laws were humiliated and furious, especially Matt, who now saw clearly that the entire relationship had been built on a foundation of lies. He moved out within the week. The crown Rebecca had placed on her own head cracked, then crumbled. I should have felt satisfied. But I wasn't done. Not yet. It happened 2 weeks later, on a cold Tuesday morning. Rebecca showed up at my office unannounced. I knew she would eventually. I had been expecting it. My assistant buzzed in, her voice low. "There's a woman here. She says she's your sister." "Send her in," I said, keeping my tone neutral. Rebecca entered, looking like a ghost of herself. Her hair was unkempt, her designer bag wrinkled and half empty. No makeup. No filters. Just the raw, withered version of the woman who once locked me in a wardrobe and laughed with champagne in hand. "Patty," she began, her voice trembling. "I didn't know it would get this bad. I lost everything. The deals, the money Matt left me. People hate me." I leaned back in my chair, Murphy sitting up by my side like the loyal sentinel he was. "Good," I said, calmly. "You earned every bit of it." Her face fell. "I was scared, okay? The wedding. I didn't want you to be uncomfortable. That's all I was trying to say." "No," I cut in, my voice now firm, edged with steel. "You were embarrassed of me. You called me a walking pity party. You mocked my disability. You locked me away like I was dirt. And you did it with a smile on your face while wearing a dress I paid for." Rebecca sank into the chair across from me, her eyes glassy. "I need help, Patty. I don't have anyone else." She said it softly, carefully, like her words might be enough to undo everything. "I helped you once," I said. "And you trapped me in a box." She tried again, switching gears. "We're sisters. You know I wasn't thinking clearly." "People make mistakes." "No," I said sharply, standing now. "People make mistakes. You made choices." Murphy let out a low growl, sensing the tension. Rebecca flinched. I walked around the desk and stood beside my dog. "You chose to betray me. You chose cruelty. And now you're here because your choices finally caught up with you. This isn't about forgiveness. This is about consequences." She broke then. Tears fell, and she clutched her arms like they might keep her from falling apart. "I'll lose everything," she whispered. "You already have," I said. And with that, I opened the door. "You may leave now." She walked out without another word. Murphy looked up at me with those big, warm eyes. I knelt beside him and hugged him tightly. "We're not finished yet," I whispered. Because there was still one final twist left in this story. And it was going to be the most satisfying of all. After Rebecca walked out of my office that day, I knew she hadn't hit rock bottom yet. Not really. She still believed she could slither her way back to the top with enough crocodile tears and pitiful apologies. But I had something else in store, a final lesson, a permanent reminder that cruelty comes at a cost. Weeks before her fall, while I was quietly gathering evidence and building my case, I had also consulted a lawyer. You see, when I paid for her wedding, I had receipts. Wire transfers, invoices, signed agreements, all legally under my name. Even the venue contract clearly stated that in the event of cancellation, the balance would be refunded to me. And since the event had been riddled with fraud, deceit, and now legal scrutiny due to public backlash, the venue was more than cooperative when I requested reimbursement for breach of moral clauses they'd violated by hosting such an incident. The cherry on top, I filed a small claims suit for emotional distress and false imprisonment. Locking someone in a confined space without consent is illegal, after all. I didn't even have to go to court. Once her lawyer read the statement and saw the video evidence, courtesy of a bridesmaid who'd grown a conscience after seeing my viral post, they settled. Rebecca lost what was left of her savings paying me off. She sold her car next. Then moved back in with my parents, who were furious she had embarrassed the family name. They didn't care about me. They never had. But reputation? That was sacred. Now they were pariahs in their social circle because of her. It was poetic. I had no intention of speaking to them. But one day, I drove past their old family home, the one I grew up in, always in the shadow, always overlooked. And I noticed a for sale sign out front. A quick call confirmed it, they were desperate to sell. I made an anonymous offer. Below market value. Cash. They took it immediately. 2 weeks later, it was mine. It was a rainy Sunday morning when I knocked on the door of my childhood home. Rebecca opened it. She looked older now, worn, no sparkle in her eyes. Behind her, our mother stood stiffly. Our father didn't even appear. You? Rebecca whispered. What are you doing here? I handed her a manila envelope. Notice to vacate, I said evenly. This house belongs to me now. Shock rippled across her face. You bought it? I did. You can't, we have nowhere to go. I gave a small, tight smile. I suggest you find somewhere. You have 30 days. Our mother stepped forward. Patty, you can't do this. This is your family. I looked her dead in the eye. You watched your daughter lock me in a wardrobe. You never once asked if I was okay. You've never stood up for me, not once in my entire life. We raised you. She snapped. No, I said calmly. You tolerated me. They sputtered, begged, threatened, cursed. But I didn't raise my voice. I simply turned, whistled for Murphy, and walked away. That house? It had never felt like home. Not really. But taking it back, owning it, on my terms, felt like closing the final chapter on a painful past. Now, I live peacefully. With Murphy. With dignity. Rebecca lost everything, her image, her influence, her money, and the safety net she thought would always be there. She locked me away for being inconvenient. I made sure the world saw her for who she truly was. And that was the price of cruelty.